Stay tuned as we learn about Altair Law's victory in a $9 million golf cart accident case. Thank you for joining us. Josh, you and I were exchanging emails earlier last week about a recent case you had involving a golf cart, of all things. Can you tell me a little bit about that case?
Yeah, Paul, first, let me say thank you for having me. I appreciate being here today. My law partner and I, Kevin Morrison, we recently obtained a verdict in a case for our client, Lino Aguilar. He's a 74-year-old man at the time of the incident who was struck by a golf cart being driven by an employee of a technology company on the sidewalk at that company's campus in San Jose. Now, when you hear the term golf cart, I think most people think, well, that's probably a smaller vehicle, not going to do too much damage to somebody if it hits them. It's quite the opposite in this case, unfortunately. The golf cart weighed about 1,200 pounds with the driver in it, and it struck Mr. Aguilar traveling at about 13 miles an hour and caused him catastrophic injuries from head to toe, including a completely displaced leg fracture of both his tibia and fibula. And so the x-rays in the case demonstrated that his leg was completely displaced all the way through with both fractures. His injuries required him to undergo 7 surgeries, 3 to his right leg alone with rods and screws, and he still needed 2 more surgeries at the time of trial. And so what was unique about this case was that we represented an older gentleman who was 78 years old at the time of trial with catastrophic injuries and significant economic damages that totaled well over 7 figures. He lost his career, he had years of treatment and medical expenses, and needed a substantial amount of future treatment too. But at trial, we waived any claim for economic damages and instead claimed only non-economic damages. So damages for Mr. Aguilar's pain, suffering, inconvenience, loss of enjoyment of life, etc. And so the decision to waive those economic damages wasn't an easy one for Mr. Aguilar, as you can imagine. It'd be a tough decision for any client to waive a claim for over $1 million. However, but by doing so, it allowed us to present a much cleaner case to the jury to focus more on Mr. Aguilar's story, all of his losses because of the incident, and how drastically it had changed his life forever. And so ultimately, as you mentioned when you started, we obtained a verdict well in excess of any settlement offer that the defense made. And it confirmed for our client that the decision at trial to waive economic damages was the right one.
Great. Well, that's a fabulous result. It's always difficult to hear about victories from our clients because there's an underlying person that had the worst day of their life in the not too distant past. But it's important to get that kind of justice for them because it's the right thing to do. Were there any differences handling this kind of case, say a golf cart on a sidewalk, as opposed to a traditional motor vehicle accident case?
There were, and this was part of the important work that went into the discovery phase of the case before trial. And so during that phase, it was made apparent to us, obviously through the work that we did, that the individual that was driving the golf cart never should have been on the sidewalk. There was a rule that prevented him from doing so, but he knowingly failed to follow that rule. And when we videotaped his deposition, we got several key admissions from him, which we ultimately were able to play during the trial, even though days before trial, the defense stipulated to liability. We were still able to play those videos. And when we played the video of the defendant driver, the jury clearly did not like him and his smug approach to the drastic and catastrophic injuries he caused to our client.
Wow. Yeah, it's terrible. It's almost unfathomable that the gentleman would be smug after knowing what this man had gone through.
It was shocking. I remember the day that we put on his videotaped testimony in front of the jury, and when it concluded, one of the jurors walked out and looked the defendant up and down and shook her head and then looked at me. And I thought, okay, we're onto something here. This could be a good day. Yeah.
That's good. Well, good. Well, thank you and your firm for getting justice for Mr. Aguilar. I know he appreciates it. And if folks listening and watching now want to learn more about this case or anything else that you guys do, how can they best get in touch with you?
I would encourage anyone who wants to learn more about our firm to visit our website, altairlaw.com.
Great. Well, thanks, Josh. I really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Paul. Really appreciate you having me.